How to Think Like a Genius. 7 Simple Habits for Success Introduction. Anyone can think like a genius. Most people believe genius is something you were born with. They think you need perfect grades, rich parents, or a super high IQ, but that's completely wrong. Real genius is not about being naturally smart. Real genius comes from how you use your brain. It's about having the right thinking habits, asking better questions, and seeing problems in new ways. You don't need anyone's permission to become brilliant. You don't need money, fancy education, or to be born in the right place. All you need is the courage to think differently about the world around you. If you've ever felt like you were meant for something bigger, if people have called you too curious or too different, that's actually perfect. Those qualities make you dangerous in the best way possible. In this complete guide, you will learn the exact same mental habits that changed the world. These are the thinking patterns used by people like Einstein, Steve Jobs, Leonardo da Vinci, and Elon Musk. This isn't just motivation. This will actually rewire how your brain works. Welcome to the art of genius thinking. Your transformation starts right now. Understanding mental models, the secret engine of genius. Before we dive into the 7 habits, you need to understand the engine behind all genius thinking. That engine is called mental models. What exactly is a mental model? Think of it as a lens through which you see everything in life. It's how your brain understands how the world works. Everyone uses mental models when they make decisions, solve problems, or think about people and opportunities. But here's the key difference. Geniuses use better mental models than everyone else. The SpaceX story. How better thinking changes everything. Elon Musk decided he wanted to build rockets. Everyone told him it was impossible. The experts said building rockets was too expensive, and only NASA could do it. At that time, a single rocket cost $58,000 per kilogram to launch something into space. That's an enormous amount of money. Most people would have given up right there. They would have accepted what the experts said and moved on to something else. But Musk used a different mental model called first principles thinking. Instead of copying what others believed, he broke the problem down to its most basic parts. Here's exactly what he did. First, he asked a simple question. What is a rocket actually made of? The answer was aerospace-grade aluminum, titanium, copper, and carbon fiber. Then he asked, how much do these raw materials actually cost? When he calculated the price of the raw materials, the answer shocked him. It came to just $2,700 per kilogram, not $58,000. Suddenly, he saw the truth that everyone else had missed. Rockets weren't expensive because they had to be expensive. They were expensive because of how the entire industry was thinking about the problem. Everyone else was copying old methods and accepting high prices. Musk questioned everything from the ground up. That's the power of using a better mental model. It helped him see truth instead of just opinions. It helped him solve problems in a completely different way. And today, SpaceX has revolutionized space travel and made it much more affordable. Why mental models matter for you. Mental models are like tools for your brain. The better your tools, the better your results. Here's what good mental models help you do. See truth, not just popular opinions. Solve problems smarter, not just harder question things that others blindly accept. Think like a scientist, philosopher, or creator instead of a follower. Geniuses have dozens of mental models in their toolkit. But even mastering just a few can completely change how you think forever. Now let's learn the 7 specific habits that will transform your thinking. Habit 1. Focus on deep understanding. Not just knowing facts. Let me start with a question that will change how you think about intelligence. Do you really understand the things you claim to know? Or are you just repeating what you've heard? Most people today don't actually think. They don't question. They don't analyze. They just copy what they've been told. They memorize facts, repeat answers, and sound smart in conversations. But they never become truly wise. Here's the brutal truth. Knowing facts is not genius. Understanding concepts is genius. When you know something, you can repeat it back. But when you understand something, you can explain it to others, rebuild it from scratch, and apply it to solve real problems in your life. That's the difference between average minds and genius minds. Richard Feynman, a master of understanding life. Me introduce you to one of the greatest minds in human history, Richard Feynman. He wasn't just a brilliant physicist who won the Nobel Prize. He was also one of the few scientists in the world who could take the most complicated ideas in the universe and explain them so simply that even a young child could understand them. Feynman had a famous rule: if you can't explain something in simple terms, you don't understand it well enough. Let me say that again because it's so important. If you can't explain it simply, you don't truly understand it. This one principle is the foundation of all genius thinking. The Feynman technique, a step-by-step method Feynman developed, a powerful technique to test whether you truly understand something. Let's say he was studying quantum mechanics, one of the hardest topics in science. Here's exactly what he would do. Step 1, learn the idea. He would read about it, research it thoroughly, and gather all the available knowledge. Step 2, teach it. To a child, this is the crucial step. He would try to explain the concept using the simplest possible words, without any technical jargon. He would literally imagine explaining it to a child, or actually explain it to his younger sister. Step 3, identify the gaps. If he struggled to explain any part of it, he knew that was a signal. It meant he didn't understand that part well enough yet. Step 4, throw back and study again. He would return to his books and research, focusing specifically on the parts that were unclear. Step 5, repeat until clear. He would keep repeating this process until he could explain the entire concept in simple, clear language. This is why Feynman could walk into any classroom and explain the structure of atoms, the secrets of the universe, or the laws of light using just a chalkboard and the language that any parent would use when teaching their child. No ego, no showing off, just real, deep understanding. That's what made him a true genius, making this personal. Are you really learning? Now let's make this personal. Ask yourself these honest questions. Do I actually understand success, or do I just copy what I see on social media? Do I truly understand relationships, or do I just repeat what I saw in movies? Do I really understand money, or do I just follow what my parents told me? Do I understand my goals, or am I just following what sounds good? If you're just memorizing and copying, that's not genius thinking. That's mental autopilot. How to build this habit starting today. Here's your step-by-step plan to develop deep understanding. Step 1, pick one important concept. Choose something you want to understand better. It could be success, discipline, confidence, leadership, money, or English fluency. Start with just one idea. Step 2, write it down. Simply try to explain this concept as if you're talking to a 5-year-old child, right? It in a notebook using the simplest words possible. Can you do it clearly? If not, that's perfect. You've just discovered where you need to grow. Step 3, break it down to the core. Ask yourself these questions. What is the simplest definition of this idea? Can I use a story or a real example to explain it? Can I remove all the complicated words and still make it clear? What are the most essential parts? This is where your brain will start working hard. But this is also where your genius begins growing. Step 4, rebuild it in your own words once you've broken the idea down completely. Rebuild it using your own voice, your own examples, and your own experiences. When you do this successfully, you'll feel something important change in your brain. You're not just learning anymore. You're owning the idea. And that ownership is the beginning of genius. Step 5, test your understanding. Try to explain your concept to a friend, family member, or even to yourself in a mirror. If you can do it clearly and simply, you've achieved true understanding. Got the transformation. A person who knows 1,000 facts but understands nothing is just a human recording device. But a person who deeply understands even one important concept can use it to change their entire life. Genius is not stored in your memory. Genius lives in your clarity of understanding. Don't just know information. Understand it deeply, feel it completely. break it down to its essence, rebuild it in your own words, and then live it every day. That's how you begin to think like a genius, even if you weren't born as one. Habit 2, think from first principles, not assumptions. Most people never create anything truly new because they're trapped in old ways of thinking. They don't question established methods. They don't analyze underlying assumptions. They don't dig deep into problems. Instead, they simply assume that the way things are right now is the way things must always be. But geniuses think completely differently. They break everything down to its raw, fundamental parts. They don't ask what's considered possible. They ask what is actually true. And from those basic truths, they rebuild everything from scratch. This powerful method is called first principles thinking. A simple example, building the world's strongest pot. Imagine you want to create the strongest cooking pot in the world, one that can survive any temperature and never break. You have 2 approaches. Approach 1, assumption-based thinking. You go to the store, look at existing pots and copy what other manufacturers have done. You assume they use this material, this size, this design. It must be the right way. So you create a pot based on copying others. But your pot still breaks under extreme heat or cold. Why? Because you built it based on assumptions and copying, not on fundamental truths. Approach 2, first principles thinking instead. You break the problem down to its core elements. What exactly makes a pot strong? What materials can survive 1,000 degrees of heat? What shape distributes pressure most effectively? Do I even need to use clay at all? Now you discover that a combination of graphene and ceramic creates a pot 100 times stronger than traditional clay. You also realize that a rounded bottom distributes heat much better than a flat one. You didn't follow what others did. You rebuilt the entire solution from zero based on scientific truth, not tradition or assumptions. That's how geniuses approach every problem. What are first principles? A first principle is the most basic, fundamental truth about something. It's the foundation that you cannot break down any further. Most people think in layers of assumptions. I want to build an app. Let me see what other people did. I want to become wealthy. Let me copy what that successful person did. I want to learn English fast. Let me find someone else's method. But geniuses strip away everything that's copied, borrowed, assumed, or untested. They go deep and ask the fundamental questions. What's the real problem I'm trying to solve? What are the undeniable facts? What are the basic raw materials or components? What's absolutely true, no matter what anyone says? Then they build their own answers from these basic truths. Real world example, learning English faster. Let's apply this to something practical. Suppose you want to learn English faster than most people. Normal thinking. Let me find a popular YouTuber's 30-day English plan and try to follow it exactly. First principles thinking. What is language actually made of? What do I really need to communicate effectively? What's the fastest way to build those specific skills? Breaking it down, language equals vocabulary plus grammar structure plus listening skills. Speaking practice. So a genius builds a simple, powerful system. Speak out loud every single day. Speaking practice. Learn 10 useful words per day. Not 50 random words. Focus vocabulary. Listen actively to real English. Conversations, listening skills. Practice using new words to explain your daily experiences, grammar, structure. This approach works better than copying someone else's plan because it's built on the fundamental truth of what language actually is, not on assumptions about what worked for someone else. How to build this habit. Step 1, choose a problem or goal. Pick something you want to solve. Improve or achieve. Step 2, ask, what is this really made of? Break your problem down to its most basic components. Don't accept conventional wisdom. Find the fundamental truth yourself. Ask questions like, what makes this expensive? What are the actual costs? What makes this difficult? What are the real obstacles? What makes this work? What are the essential elements? What assumptions am I making that might be wrong? Step 3, remove all assumptions. Strip away everything you think you know. Remove all that's just how it's done thinking. Step 4, Rebuild from basic truths. Once you understand the fundamental components, create your own solution based on what's actually true. Not what's traditionally done. The power of questioning everything when you start thinking from first principles. Several powerful things happen. You stop being a follower and start being a creator. Stop depending on how it's always been done. You discover new solutions that others can't even see you. Find truth in a world full of opinions. You develop genuine confidence in your decisions. This is how real innovation happens. This is how true leaders are born. This is how you become the person who changes the game instead of just playing someone else's game. More examples: fitness first principles. Instead of copying workout routines, ask, what actually makes muscles grow? What actually burns fat? What does my specific body need? Business first principles. Instead of copying business models, ask, what problem am I really solving? What value am I creating? What do people actually need? Productivity first principles. Instead of copying productivity systems, ask, what actually moves me toward my goals? What are my biggest time wasters? What gives me the most energy? Remember, genius begins not with having all the answers, but with having the courage to ask the right questions. Stop assuming. Stop copying. Stop doing things just because that's how other people do them. Instead, tear every idea down to its foundation. Remove the noise. Find the truth. Ask yourself, what is this really made of? What is actually true? What can I rebuild from scratch with my own understanding? That's what Elon Musk did with rockets. That's what all geniuses do throughout history. And that's what you can start doing today. Habit 3. Think in silence while the world drowns in noise. The world today is the loudest it has ever been in human history. Most people wake up to phone notifications. They walk with music or podcasts in their ears. They eat while scrolling through social media. They think while a voice from YouTube tells them what to believe. All of this constant noise feels completely normal now. But here's the critical problem. You cannot think clearly if you never hear your own mind. And you can never hear your own mind if you're always listening to someone else's thoughts. That's why most people today feel confused, overwhelmed, and unable to solve their problems. That's why they copy ideas instead of creating original solutions. But geniuses do exactly the opposite. They regularly disappear into complete silence. They create sacred space where deep thinking becomes possible, where powerful ideas come alive, and where complex problems begin to unfold in ways that others can't even imagine. Einstein's secret weapon. Silent walks. Albert Einstein gave us the theory of relativity. He completely reshaped our understanding of physics, time, space, and light. He changed how humanity thinks about the universe itself. But do you know what his secret weapon was? It wasn't a massive laboratory filled with expensive equipment. It wasn't access to the world's greatest libraries. It wasn't a supercomputer. Einstein's secret was taking long, quiet walks in complete silence. Einstein was famous for taking hours-long walks by himself through the woods near his house in Princeton, New Jersey. No music playing, no podcasts, no phone calls, no distractions of any kind. Just him, his thoughts, and his powerful imagination. He would walk completely alone, with no notebook and no agenda, allowing his mind to wander freely through whatever problems he was working on. And during those silent walks, he came up with the ideas that literally changed the world. Not by working harder or longer hours, but by thinking deeper and more clearly. Most people believe that genius equals working more. But Einstein's life proves that true genius comes when you disconnect from the external world and finally connect with your own internal mind. The power of silent thinking. Einstein understood something that almost no one else realized at that time. The most important work of your life doesn't happen in front of other people. It happens alone, in the quiet corners of your mind, in the spaces between distractions, in the silence that allows your brain to finally breathe and think clearly. We're not talking about meditation or spiritual practices. We're talking about something much simpler and far more powerful. Dedicated, silent, personal thinking time. When you learn to think in silence regularly, amazing transformations happen. You solve problems that have been stuck in your head for weeks or months. You gain crystal clear clarity about important decisions. You hear your authentic inner voice, not the voice of fear, pressure, or other people's expectations. You create original plans instead of copying what others are doing you. Think through your emotions logically instead of just reacting impulsively. Your mind transforms from chaos and confusion to clarity and power. How to build this habit. A beginner's guide. Step 1. Create your daily thinking time. Set aside 20 to 30 minutes every single day for pure thinking. No phone, no music, no scrolling, no distractions. Just sit comfortably, take a walk, or lie down and let your brain talk to you. This might feel incredibly boring at first because your mind isn't used to silence. Your brain has become addicted to constant stimulation. But within just 3 days of practice, you'll notice that powerful ideas start showing up. Your thoughts become more organized. You'll feel more calm, more clear, and more mentally powerful. Step 2. Ask yourself genius questions during your silent thinking time. Ask yourself deep questions like these. What am I avoiding in my life right now? What problem am I pretending doesn't exist? What would I do if I had no fear at all? What is one difficult truth I'm finally ready to face? What decision have I been postponing? What opportunity am I not seeing clearly? Let these questions sink deep into your mind. Let them move around in your brain without forcing answers. You'll be amazed at what insights emerge when you stay silent long enough to actually hear them. Step 3. Embrace boredom as your gateway. To break through, here's something that nobody tells you. Boredom is actually the doorway to genius thinking. When your brain becomes truly bored, not distracted, but genuinely bored, it automatically starts creating new ideas, making unexpected connections, and solving problems creatively. That's why Einstein, Steve Jobs, and countless other creative geniuses did their most important thinking during showers, long walks, empty rooms, and quiet mornings. Because boredom isn't your enemy. It's the beginning of original thought. In our hyper-connected world, most people never experience real boredom anymore. They fill every empty moment with entertainment, information, or stimulation. But they're accidentally killing their ability to think creatively. Step 4. Protect your thinking time. Treat your daily thinking time as sacred and non-negotiable. Don't let emails, phone calls, or other people interrupt it. This is your time to connect with the most intelligent advisor you'll ever have. Your own clear-thinking mind, the incredible results when you consistently practice thinking in silence. You'll experience profound changes. Mental clarity, you become less reactive to daily stress and more strategic in your responses to challenges. Better decisions, you make important choices based on clear thinking rather than emotional pressure or fear. Creative solutions. You come up with original ideas and approaches that other people will never see. Inner confidence. You develop trust in your own judgment instead of constantly seeking approval from others. Emotional intelligence. You learn to understand and process your emotions logically rather than being controlled by them. Personal power. You develop your own authentic inner voice instead of just copying what others say or think. The truth about noise versus silence in a world that rewards and celebrates the loudest voices. True genius belongs to those who learn to hear and trust the quietest voice of all, their own. Most people are terrified of silence because they've never learned to be comfortable with their own thoughts. But when you finally turn off all the external noise and sit with your own mind, you'll discover parts of yourself that are brilliant, creative, strategic, and completely unstoppable. The next big breakthrough in your life is not hiding in another YouTube video, podcast, or book. It's not waiting for you in someone else's content or advice. Your next breakthrough is already inside your brain right now, waiting patiently for you to turn off the noise and finally listen to your own genius. Habit 4. Learn by teaching, not just consuming. Here's a sentence that can completely revolutionize your entire learning process. The most powerful way to master any subject is to teach it to someone else. This sounds simple, but it's one of the rarest, most powerful, and most underused genius habits in the world to think about how most people try to learn new things. They watch 100 YouTube videos, read 10 different books, take 5 online courses, and fill multiple notebooks with notes that they'll never look at again. And yet, after all that effort, they forget almost everything within just 2 weeks. Why does this happen? Because they only consume information. They never transform what they learn into their own understanding, but geniuses approach learning completely differently. They take new knowledge and immediately translate it into their own words. They explain it clearly. They simplify it effectively. They teach it to someone else. And that's exactly how they remember it forever and actually use it to improve their lives. Richard Feynman's teaching philosophy. We talked about Richard Feynman earlier, but his approach to learning through teaching deserves special attention. Because it's so powerful, Feynman wasn't just a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. He was widely considered one of the greatest teachers in the history of science. He could take the most confusing, complicated topics in physics, things like quantum mechanics, subatomic particles, time dilation, and relativity, and explain them so clearly that a teenager could understand them completely. But here's what most people don't realize. Feynman didn't teach because he was naturally smart. He became exceptionally smart because he made teaching a core part of his learning process. Every single time Feynman learned something new, he followed one strict rule. I don't truly understand this concept until I can explain it clearly in my own words to someone else. Feynman's teaching process. Here's exactly what Feynman would do when learning any new concept. Step 1. Learn the basic concept. He would study the material from books, lectures, or research papers. Step 2. Close all the books. This is crucial. He would put away all his reference materials. 3. Teach it out loud. He would grab a blank notebook and pretend to teach the concept to a friend, his sister, or even to himself in a mirror. No memorization allowed. No copying fancy words from textbooks. Just raw translation from complex idea to clear, simple speech. Step 4. Identify confusion points if he got confused or started using complicated jargon. He would stop and say, wait, I don't actually understand this part yet. Step 5. Go back and relearn. He would return to his study materials, focusing specifically on the parts that were unclear. Step 6. Teach again. He would repeat the teaching process until he could explain the entire concept using clear, simple language that anyone could follow. Only when he could teach it, simply would he say, now I truly understand it. This single habit made him one of the most respected minds in the world. Not because he memorized more information than others, but because he could explain ideas better than anyone else. Why teaching works so powerfully when you attempt to teach something, even to yourself. Several important things happen in your brain. Clarity. Check. You immediately realize what you truly understand. And what you're just pretending to know. Deep connections. Your brain is forced to connect new ideas with things you already understand. Confidence building. You feel much more confident. Actually using the knowledge in real-life situations. Long-term memory. Information moves from short-term memory into permanent, accessible knowledge. Creative application. You start seeing new ways to apply what you've learned. Geniuses don't just collect information like digital storage devices. They process knowledge, internalize it completely, and then redeliver it in their own unique language and style. That transformation process is the final, crucial stage of real learning. Why most people don't do this, you might be wondering. If teaching is so powerful for learning, why don't more people do it? The answer is simple, because it's uncomfortable and requires real effort. It's easy and comfortable to say, yeah, I understand that concept. But when you actually try to explain something out loud in your own words, suddenly your brain says, wait, I'm confused. This part doesn't make sense. I don't really get it. That moment of confusion feels uncomfortable, so most people avoid it. They prefer to stay in the comfortable illusion of understanding. But Geniuses understand that confusion is actually a gift, not a weakness. It shows you exactly where your mind needs to grow and develop. Instead of avoiding that discomfort, they run directly toward it. How to build this habit. Practical steps. Step 1. Explain everything out loud after learning anything new. Immediately try to explain it using your own words. Do this out loud even. If no one is listening, you can talk to your mirror, record yourself on your phone, or pretend you're teaching an imaginary student. This forces your brain to do the real work of understanding. Do I truly comprehend this? Or am I just fooling myself? Step 2. Write simple explanations. Open notebook and try to explain today's new learning in just 4 to 5 sentences. Use the simplest words possible. Avoid all jargon and technical language. If you struggle with this exercise, that's perfect. It shows you exactly where you need to study more deeply. Step 3. Teach real people. You don't need a formal classroom or teaching credentials. Just find one person, a family member, friend, coworker, or study partner. Say something like, "Can I explain this new concept to you quickly? It'll help me understand it better." Even if they don't fully grasp what you're teaching, the act of explaining will dramatically improve your own understanding. Step 4. Create content. Write blog posts. Make videos or create social media content explaining what you're learning. Teaching publicly forces you to truly understand your material because you know others will ask questions. Apply this to everything you learn learning English. Teach every new word and grammar rule out loud. Explain English concepts to friends or family members studying business. After reading about business strategies, explain each concept in a voice note to yourself or in a simple written summary. Learning productivity techniques. Teach your new time management methods to friends or colleagues studying health and fitness. Explain new workout routines or nutrition concepts to others who are interested in getting healthier. This approach transforms your brain into a clarity-generating machine. And that level of clear thinking is extremely rare in today's world. The transformation. The smartest people in history didn't prove their intelligence by staying silent and mysterious. They proved their genius by making other people smarter too. The more you teach what you learn, the more deeply you understand it. The more you explain concepts out loud, the longer you remember them. The more you share knowledge in your own words, the more powerful and confident your thinking becomes. Don't just be a consumer of information. Become a teacher of your own thoughts and discoveries, even if your only student is yourself, because the moment you start teaching what you learn is the exact moment you start thinking like a true genius. Habit 5. Focus deeply on one thing while others chase everything. Let me tell you the biggest secret that nobody wants to hear. Your brain is not weak or defective. Your focus is just scattered and divided. In today's hyper-connected world, most people are literally drowning in distractions. They try to learn 5 different skills simultaneously. They chase 7 different goals at the same time. They jump constantly from app to app, video to video, book to book, hoping that consuming more information will somehow lead to better results. But instead, they end up feeling overwhelmed, confused, stuck, and frustrated. Eventually, they quit their goals entirely and blame themselves for failing. Here's what's really happening. They think the problem is that they're not smart enough or motivated enough. But the real issue is that they're not lacking intelligence. They're lacking depth and focused attention. Geniuses throughout history have understood a fundamental truth. They don't try to chase 100 different things at once. Instead, they go completely all in on mastering one thing with obsessive, uninterrupted, ruthless focus. Bruce Lee's philosophy of focus mastery. Let me take you into the mind of one of the greatest martial artists and philosophers the world has ever known, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee wasn't just an incredible fighter. He was also a deep thinker about focus, discipline, and true mastery. One of his most famous and powerful quotes is, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." Read that sentence again, slowly, and let it sink in. He didn't fear the person who tried 10,000 different kicks one time each. He feared the person who practiced the same kick 10,000 times until it became absolutely perfect. Why? Because that second person is truly dangerous. That person has developed real depth, precision, and mastery. That person has trained both body and mind to focus on one thing with such incredible intensity that it becomes completely unbeatable. This is the fundamental mindset of genius. Depth over breadth, mastery over variety, focus over scattered effort. Why? Bruce Lee's approach was revolutionary. Bruce Lee didn't try to become great at everything. He didn't attempt to master 50 different martial arts simultaneously. Instead, here's what he did. He studied one fighting style deeply and completely. Then he broke it apart piece by piece, analyzed every component, rebuilt it according to his own understanding, and created his own unique version. Then he'd practice his approach over and over and over again. He would throw the same kick for hours at a time, adjusting his movement by tiny millimeters, watching himself in mirrors, recording his techniques, and repeating the motion until his body and mind were in perfect alignment, while the rest of the martial arts world admired variety and trying to learn many different styles. Bruce Lee pursued absolute perfection and simplicity. He understood a truth that most people miss. True. Power doesn't come from doing more things. Real power comes from doing one thing so incredibly well that nobody else can even compete with you. That's how all geniuses approach their work and their lives. The modern problem: scattered energy right now. You might feel like you're falling behind in life. Maybe you've been trying to learn a new language like English, start a YouTube channel or blog, build a business or side income, improve your confidence and social skills, become more productive and organized, physically healthy, and fix your relationships. With family and friends, develop new hobbies and interests, but somehow everything feels stuck and nothing seems to be progressing significantly. Here's why this happens. Your mental energy and attention are being split into tiny, ineffective pieces. You're putting 5% of your effort here, 3% there, 10% somewhere else, and 7% on yet another goal. But nothing, absolutely nothing, is getting your complete focused attention and effort. And if nothing gets your full attention, then nothing can reach its full potential for growth and success. The solution: choose one mission. When you choose just one primary focus and give it your complete undivided effort, you become virtually unstoppable in that area. True genius isn't about being moderately good at many different things. Genius is about becoming undeniably powerful and excellent at one specific thing. How to build this habit. A step-by-step plan. Step 1. Choose your one focus for the next 30 days. Ask yourself these crucial questions. What's the one skill that would change my life the most if I mastered it? What's one important goal I've been avoiding, but I know I must finally tackle? If I could only improve one area of my life this month, what should it be? Write down your answer. Circle it. Commit to it completely. Make this your primary mission for the next 30 days, not your only activity, but your main focus. Step 2, eliminate the noise and distractions. Focused thinking isn't about adding more activities to your life. It's about strategically removing distractions and time wasters. Here's what to do. Delete apps from your phone that don't serve your main goal. Unfollow social media accounts that distract you from your focus. Stop consuming content from 20 different mentors. Pick just one and follow their advice. Consistently mute group chats and conversations that waste your mental energy. Create physical space in your environment that supports your main goal. Remember, clarity and focus require mental silence. And space. Step 3. Go deep, not wide. Instead of trying to learn everything about your chosen area, focus intensely on mastering the fundamental basics again and again until they become part of your natural thinking. If your focus is English, don't try to learn 1,000 new words. Instead, master the top 500 most useful words. Use them in real conversations every single day. Speak out.